Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
How things is happening, we discuss right. Like if this is your saving environment, let's say, and if this is your trusted database or trusted source of information, that is your database we are consuming here. And we have two record here or two users information. Are there those two information we are passing to Saviynt, right? Saviynt has those two users now. We used to call it as a trusted recon. What is by trusted recon solution? Before a trusted recon solution, we have two types of recon solution. One is trusted recon solution. Another is we have target recon solution. Trusted recon solution. We called it as like a import of user, or as we talk it like authoritative source. Authoritative source. Target recon solution. We also called it as like import of account or non-authoritative source. If one line, somebody asked like what is recon solution, right? What is recon solution? You can tell like whenever Saviynt, if this is your Saviynt receive any information, right? That is called recon solution. Here from the database, Saviynt is receiving information. That is why it is called as a recon solution, right? That recon solution involves again two things, right? I told you, right? One is trusted recon solution, another is a target recon solution. Let's, have a little bit more talk about right now recon solution, right? Recon solution. This is basically whenever Saviynt receive any information. If this is your Saviynt and it is receiving any information, there is two ways Saviynt can receive information, right? One is from your trusted database that we talked. Now, right? What we saw now, that is your trusted database. Another is your target information, like target applications, where also Saviynt can receive the information. Whenever I talk about target database, what does it mean? If you talk about target application, right? What is the target app, right? If you remember, in the day one when I was talking to you, I told you, right, the Accenture guy, right? Or the Accenture HR, when they had requirement, they hire employee for their project. They enter your data in their database, right? This was like your HIMS database. They enter the user here. After entering the user here, right, the information from here, Saviynt received your information, right? Saviynt, once it receives your information, all this user information, it used to give access to different applications, right? In our case, the application name used to be like Outlook. And we had like timesheet, HR portal and on. Here this HIMS, we call it as a trusted source database. And all this application, right, where all this user information were created, like this user, like we brought it here into Saviynt, and from Saviynt, it was automatically create their account, right? In Outlook in time set application HR portal, these applications are called as like target application. Right? These are the target application. In the target application, the user information, it is called a different name. What if from the HRMS, your data, like the information of the user information, is getting created in Saviynt or it is getting onboarded? We call it as a user. That means in the day 1 or the first this information Saviynt received, we call it as a user. Yesterday we called to user rate like one was Kevin, another was like, I forgot the name. Let's say this two user we created in Saviynt. And now Saviynt has this two user information. Whenever I will try to post this information or this information I'll try to send to this application, right, to Outlook or time set it itself, but that time these user it will be called as an account. These user details, it will be called as an account. Now Kevin was acting as a user in Saviynt. When Kevin got onboarded to Outlook application or time set application or HR source application, Kevin, it will be called like this is Kiwi account in Outlook or Kiwi and account in time set and HR portal. You got the thing right. What is the difference between an account and a user? Any doubt here? I think it is a no. How you differentiate between a user and an account, right? Users are getting onboarded only up to Saviynt because we are managing the life cycle of user. That is why in Saviynt we need user, and that is coming from your trusted database or trusted source of information that is called HRMS. Once this user are onboarded to Saviynt from Saviynt, if you try to create or like if you want to manage any application like Outlook or time set, HR, HRMS portal or error portal, and you are trying to create the user information here, that will be called as an account. How the relationship happened, right? It is one to many. A single user can have multiple accounts, right? In like your Outlook account, your time set or HR portal, right? In the real world, if you talk about like we have many accounts. We have account in Insta. We have account in Facebook. We have account in Gmail, right? We have account in different application, but we act as a single user. The same way in the corporate world also, right? If you go for SBI application, right? If you want to have an account in SBI, right, you can open it. You can go for ICC Bank another account. These information we call it as SBI account. I have an ICC Bank account. However, we do not call it as like an SBI user, right? User is something different. This is called an account information here. Now this HMS application. Now we are treating it as a trusted source and we are creating a user here. Now our yesterday we saw about like how we are going to import users, right? Import user part we have seen, right? How we are provisioning the user. Let me, repeat the step again, right? Simple. Databases, this database is ready. I'm going to create another user here. Let's say if I create another user, this username, right? In the real time, it would be auto-generate, right? Because, if it is not auto-generated, that is, there's not be a scenario where this duplication will happen, right? That is why you know this. It is an auto increase ID or it will be always in your database. If you enter simply this column, it will automatically, increase one value. They used to some methodology, to create auto increase column in the database. They have some mechanism. If you try to find also in Google, it will, you can find it. I'm giving the, like my first name, like, like ramp here. Just leave the ID here and a status key and pass against one. I'm giving an email ID, right? Like email, come and apply it, apply and finish. This record is saved. If I search it again, now it is written to me 3 users, right? We had already 2 record and we are adding one more record. Let's see if we run the recon job now, what would happen? Let's see. If I go back here, simple go to the admin menu. Right? Again, you can click the job control panel, right? Once you click it, go to the database, scroll down here. User import complete from the database. Click here. This is your training. Do we import data? Click on start. Database training. See it, choose the connection name, what we created and simply click on submit. I have run the job, right? Hello Mon. What's the difference between import full job and import incremental job? I'll come to that part actually. You can see how this usually fully import and increment depend work. I'll come to that part in a minute. As we have already onboarded 2 users again, if we do the reconciliation job again, it's time waste, right? We have created only 1 user today. Yes, you are correct, but that is some issue. I'll come to that point. What happened? Why CTV? And always, prefer full import rather than the incremental icon. I'll come to that part. There is 2 scenario, a little. Cover it with that notice. I'll come to that. We ran the job, right? Training data import, right again. Click on this job link. You'll go to the history. How many times the job has been ran from yesterday, right? If a little make it as a zoom out. You see this response is success, right? This is like the main 25th, 8:30 just before few seconds back I ran. If you click on this instance like what is the name, click here. What information you see, right? Total user updated 2 and total user inserted only 1. That means this time it passed 3 user, but it created only 1 and updated 2 because we had only one new record. This new user got onboarded. And coming back to a question, why if there is an incremental record, why should we go for, full record? Why it is recommended? As there is, we discuss again. This record, it is divided into two, right? One is your full record. Another one is an incremental record. Again, CV and recommend for the full record. Why? Because let's say you have 100 user here, right? In your database or your HMS system, these MS system 100 user in the day. When you run the full import, right? And you bring to Saviynt. Now the Saviynt has all this 100 user listed here. It has this data. Let's say tomorrow you are bringing back, another 5 user. How much is the total user? As you were saying, if I implement the incremental return, it should only fetch this only 5 user, right? And along with that, whatever user has in orbit updated. Let's say out of this 100 user, 19 end user didn't receive any update. Only one user, right? She got married and last time got changed. She brought up another changes. Totally 5 new user plus 1 old user. 6 update user information should have received by the Saviynt, right? In the recon like incremental recon. This is the easiest thing, right? It will not take much time to process again because in the real time the data might have a huge number of data, right? Like one log, 70,000 or 80,000 in real-time record is increasing all the information to the Saviynt database. That's a hectic process. Let me tell you why these are happening. You know why Saviynt is preparing instead of full recon, instead of incremental full recon. Suppose you see total. I had now 6 user, right? I brought up another 8 user as a new user and I am implementing the incremental recon. What happened this time, right? Because of some reason, you had a job stoppage too. Or let's say your server was down. Or you said, there is a maintenance activity going on from your end, right? In every Saturday, Sunday or weekend. That's why this 8 user didn't got bring to here. What happened in the next day, right? In the next day, you have 106 user plus this 8. That means you had 1 on 4 user, right? Now again, you see 5 user. What will happen to this 8 user? Because in an incremental recon, we always mention the timeline. System always look for the previous 8-hour back or 10-hour back or 24 hours back, like that. Based on the system date it used to bring the record. Now it is not going to pick this 8 user because it is out of the time boundary limit. If you had 6 user up to 8 am and you receive another 6 user like 12 user as pay name. This mean in pay name, you got another 6 plus user, but your job is telling, right? I would receive information like your job is telling every day, right? It will learn exactly, this is 10 am, it will receive, right? Tell I will, my schedule is 11 a.m. every day, right? Any user, I'm giving the information update timestamp. What value it is updated, like last updated timestamp. Let's say if it is 8 a.m., right? I'll go like +3. What it will look like. At 11 a.m. only whatever user is imported or came to the system, it will bring back this information. These 6 user, it is going to lose. That is why, in the industry, most of the common folks, for only user import, they don't prefer incremental. If a job struck happen or any other issue happen, the job didn't run right. It won't bring the information how this reconstituted concept is working if you look at the document right. If I look at the database integration, right. How it is implemented if you look incremental input, right. This is account input, right. Let me go for the user input, user import. Configuring user input. This was like example, for incremental input, right. Incrementally. If you look back right, they will be fetching the data based on the timestamp. If you look at the data, how it is behaving, right. See in the description mapper, they have mentioned another column called timestamp. This timestamp, right. Date from a timestamp. This timestamp, right. They're using this concept to bring back the user. That means if any user, for each and every user, whenever any updating, let's say the object happened for a user like 24th, like 8:30. Last updated, it will check. And from that moment, it will try to bring over back by user. This is just a concept. How they're using incremental column, equal to update date. Based on this column, it is happening. But in the real time, how it used to happen, or if you look back, in our project, how they have implemented, we should always look for health hour of user. In last 12 hours, whatever user is created or it got updated, we are bringing back this information, right. What happened in our case, right. Most of the time, whenever we are, in CBN, we most of time will have job stock issue, right. That means if your job is, this job is running right. I showed you this job. If you go back job control panel, this user import complete from database, right. And this job name is this training data import. This job is, getting stuck most of the time. Why it is getting stuck? I'll come to that point, right. Later a point, right. Training, import job, there is a lot of chance that this job will get stuck. Means it won't run further. It won't run further, right. It won't bring back any information. And if it won't bring back any information, right, that's again problem. You have to call to the CBN guy or CBN, support him to restart the job or restart the server, that the structure will clear and it will start a new instance. But by the time you were raising a ticket and asking them to clear, it would have gone more than 2 days or 3 days. And what is the time you mentioned here? In our cases, we mentioned 2 hours or previous record, it should bring. In the 12-hour previous record, what we mentioned, right. And it missed out some of the user, 8 user. Because this 8 user, it was created, or 23 hour back, but we are not able to bring it because the server was stuck. The job was supposed to be run, bring back every user before 12. All the time, whenever it will run, it will try to fetch the data in each from past 12 hours, from past 12 hours. But it was stuck for 2 days. That's why it was not able to bring the 8 user. What about this 8 users? Who are? They are. They are, in the queue. They're supposed to start their work in another 1 or 2 days. Then again, you have to ask your SAFE team to update. But as SAFE team, it is not advisable to update, right? They will ask what is your tool is doing. Why your tool is not flexible to bring this user? That is not my problem. You cannot go back to the come HR team and ask them to update again and again, right? What we used to do, we used to go to the Saviynt team and ask them to remove this value, to change this value that it will bring the previous information user as well. That is why most of the caches or most of the time Saviynt preferred to go for the full import. Only for the full import rate for the import of user, not for account. I told you we have two kind of recon, right? One is your trusted reconciliation. Another you had target reconciliation. In case of trusted reconciliation, Saviynt prefer you to go for the full import. Because in the real time, right? How this thing happening if you have only one source of trusted database or trusted information where the data is coming to Saviynt. In the real time, you have a number of target database application or target application. In your company, when you work actually, you will get a lot of chance to work in the target application because this will be only one-time setup. Where user is coming and onboarding to Saviynt from Saviynt user getting access to different application. Let's say you are, integrating A, D today. Tomorrow will be integrating L, D, A, P as a target. Tomorrow might be you integrate DB as a target. Tomorrow you will integrate ServiceNow as a target application or like your Meta application. A lot of application will be integrated in the real time. All this application you are integrating means you are creating more managing their account information here, right? These account information you are mentioning. These are called your target information. These application you can implement as a you can implement as an incremental recon. That's not an issue. This incremental recon, you can implement it for this application. Now you got idea, right? Why Saviynt doesn't prefer for going for the trusted source as an incremental recon and it always refer as a full input recon, right? Any doubt here? Am I audible? If you move slowly, right? You will understand the things, right? If your server is stable, you do not have any issue in your environmental. You 100%, you give a guarantee that I do not have any issue with my environment and I will not have any zero, stuck up job. Then you can go for incremental how we are using in the earlier version of OIM the server, that is, we use their WebLogic server. It was very strong enough and we never face any kind of, like running issue of import or user import or like account report. They prefer always to go for the incremental. Why you should waste your time or system time? Because system will get heavy, right? If it is always bringing your 70 key user information and it take a lot of time to update that. Again, some of the application also, because earlier some of the application also not supported by the full recon, incremental recon. Now it is supported, but it is not advisable. Let's see. We are now done with the import of user, right? We are, as a href resource, we are placing some user and we are sending this information to a through. a job, right? Who you are saving, right? This is like manual cases happening here, right? We are each time manually running this import job, right? Let's make this job as an automatic process. How you can do that for an automation process, right? Simple. If you click on the access menu, right, click on the schedule. Right, once you click the schedule, give the connection name like database CF and click on submit. And after that it will ask you what time you want to run. Basically in the industry for this import of user happen hourly basis or like 2 hours or 3 hour basis they used to do. In our cases for the testing purpose because we cannot wait for a 1 hour to run it. Right? I will give it to run it, every 10 minutes. I'll again change it back because if you run a job each and every 1 minute, system will get slowed down. Simply submit it. Now simple enter another user here. 789 I'm giving the user. This time I'm giving a username, right? I'm giving a status key as 1 and typing email ID here. And let me. This city information is not mapped right. If you give also not renovated. See, save it and apply it. Now it is done. If you click on finish, face the record. With 8:47 am. Let's see what happened to the job. It's training the being correctly on this. What time it ran? If you see it ended it, 8:29. Well, last time we run it right again. Go back, click on the database and come to here. See, it is still in net and is 8:51. That means in another 3 minutes, the job is going to run. Right? And once it automatically run, it will see in the database whatever values there. It will try to, update this earlier user and it will create a new user. This is like how you can automate the process and in the real time they also do the same thing. Now our import is done as you said, right? We'll take back most of the because. Why do I no wait for another 3 minutes? Let it happen. We'll come back to C. We did a complete import of user. Let's jump into another topic, right? That is for your. It is called as a provisioning. 1 second menu. How will we implement the account in Saviynt? Now we added input. It was like a fully modified account. Incrementally, that's not an issue. What you can do if you go to the this document, right? Again, it is giving the same. Nothing is right. Here we go for a full import of user here, right? If you look back, document it is exactly same. How old is there? But only difference is, in the incremental recon. They have taken another column here. Let's try to see this. Let me copy this information. Why it is not going down? Let's copy it. This is user import right. We'll make it as a full end here. Here is the import. Increment. And if you look back the document right, this is like Again, they're doing the same thing in the select user. Before coming back to, let's first jump into the field name. What they had in, what field they're trying to, achieve. Therefore, sending the first name, last name value, status, key value and department as user right. These four value that sending to the your save and database or salient from the stress resource, but I know additional to that what they're there, sending another information that is like update date. This update date actually right. They're passing based on this update date. They're trying to face the information. This date format, it is a timestamp. How this has happened? If you go back here, you will have another column. Let's say you are entering it at here like 10.2.7.8.9.2. And let me give some information like test user 1 and email. There will be another column here. It will be called as like it's a update date. One column will be here and this update date. You no need to fill it off, it will be automatically updated. You have some feature in the database. If you go back here, if you try to give a new column like an update date, right? And if you scroll down, it will be timestamp. Basically, if you give the timestamp value also, I can believe you need to provide it. Like your timestamp or date and time. This date and time. If you mention the date, some values should be there like an auto increment. You see this AI right? You should take it right auto increment. It got auto increment right. Or it will be autofill. This like unique character primary key, not null. Unique bold is binary column. This is unique design. And this is fill out the value for that column with 0 if it is numeric, and this is auto increment. And this is generated column. If it marked as auto increment and applied, finish it. If you go back to face the information right, and if you try to save a new record, let's see, it will be logic actually, right. You have to perform it for the auto increment. This value is not filling rate. You have a methodology like you have to update this column, or else you have to mention like a system data dot, or else you can search it here. Let's search it here. How they're doing like in how to populate a timestamp column in MySQL. Creating table with a timestamp field in MySQL, right? You can check this one. This is like let us create a table. If you create the table like this, not null, incremental, auto increment and ended timestamp default. Current timestamp not null. Basically, it will put your current timestamp, this value. After that, if you pass this record right, it will be ended. It will be like this. Default is current timestamp. If I give this current timestamp, let's see whether it is going to asset or import user, and if I give content error cannot be accepted. The previous value key kept is instead. If you give like here, what is the value they're passing here? And then the timestamp. The value is timestamp and it are different times. If I create a table like this, right, I think it will asset. Because this is like your database job. They used to do it right. If you give your date and default expression here, I believe you have to give the current timestamp. No, this is not a certain. Then you can simply go back to like for creating a new, it's kind of like new window. Type this record or table information. Like a late copy this information. They will modify it in the query window. Sorry. This is like you have to move this. This is not required. Just modify this query. Create table. Like ID is not known auto increment primary. This is just say primary key column, right? You can keep it as an ID, then start date, right? They have given as a timestamp. We'll keep it as this column only like a update underscore date. Timestamp and default current timestamp not. Other column, right? You can simple ignore this, or you can add your more column if you want. And what is your simple? Run this and just call it down. What you got? Changes applied, right? Not this one, no database selected. Just right click and set it as a default schema, and after that run it. The table got created, simple refresh it. You see this demo data is created, right? The same logic you can. We were like if I simply gave a value here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, or you have to click it here. Once you do that, now it's coming. Simple apply it. There was an error while it was in the database. Open the out of range value. This means it's expecting less column value. I gave only this much. Finish. See, the time got auto populated, right? The same condition, we can utilize it, the query itself. How you can gonna do that? I believe this is possible only through the query. While creating the table information, this thing we created, right? Through a query, how you can create a table, create table. I did not only give updated this, and let me give you a problem proper name to this table. You will give like import underscore users too. And this ID will be there for us updated will be the last column. Here, I gave first name. And I give the column name is where could comma. In that care we have mentioned like in 2E50. First name is gone, then you have to give last name. Where can say new to do the character comma. First name, last name is the what else we required. We required email. Again worker 50 and comma here. 3 column we took right. We may be on it another column. What does the data like first name, last name, status and email write? ID is already there. First name, last name, status, email. Where it went. I'll give status key worker 250. This was on the right and other sub fine. You have selected this by default data right. Import user to have given the name and run this countable. And refresh this. You got this table. Just do a select, your data is blank, right? Even ID would have once a part of populated. That's not an issue. I can, just give some ID here, random ID, which is not available in your system. I'll give 345. I'm giving the first name you said, are you please? 1, 2, 3. I'm getting last name. With the dot 1, 2, 3 add the right Gmail. Status key 1 and simple. I'll update. This is calling. And finish. ID also again. I'll give you 3, 5, 6. I'll give this one. 3 and 3 is dot gincom and status key 1 and simple update. What I did actually, it updated the updated automatically, right? Balance times 1. You can utilize this table, for your training purpose. How you can do that? If you come back here, this is for the full imported right. Now you have to utilize this import xml file. And what is here? Map field. Any other thing? Map. I think some data mapping column is missing. Copy it here and paste it here. This is data mapping. There is a break. Get it back. And this is your query. And generate a mail. I'm giving it a false because I have already email address. Update, check for roles and user operation. Remove it. Otherwise it will take only update. It won't allow any creation of that thing. Record sample, remove this one and user it comes, listen for as usual. You have given here username. Same information, pure passing. Same query also, you have to pass it. What column name you are giving? What is 0-day provisioning? That's a good question. We'll come to that because that's the important part. Actually, we can admit that. It's like a take rule. We have to implement it. All has a meaning. I'll come to the 0-day provisioning. Just generate email, right? Check rules. This is the biggest thing if you go for the check rule. Without this check rule, nothing gonna work. That's why it is required actually this 0-day provisioning and the secret. It worked both together. If you miss any of that, it would like false. It won't work. No worry. I'll come to that point because I cannot miss the also this one. We hired like 4 column here, and we have also taken an ID column there, right? ID column. You can place it again here. ID we are mapping to username, first name. We are mapping to first name, last name and status key. Just before that, check this feeling what we have taken here. Otherwise, we will face a lot of issues. That's why it's simple. Just Python copy this last time. We have an email attribute, right? Copy this email attribute. Or let me paste it again and give the name here. This should be last name, and here it should be email, and see your email. ID first name, last name, email status key, right? Status key. We are not considering the update date, right? Because update date, right? It is like an incremental part. You see the incremental column, right? Update date. This value, right? Update date. It is, playing a bigger role in your column. Now we have the incremental column update date. Based on this date, actually it will pick the user and what incremental value you will need. Actually, if you go to the document, right, it will be the description giving the more information here, right? Of course, from incrementally inputted user for similar format following the XML. The similar format. You can, follow this thing and what they have the incremental column update date. Date format is timestamp. This thing you can emulate. This note, just have a look. The default value for the user operation net is create and update. Well, forget about this. I'll come to this picture later. Consider the following scene when incremental data is set to update date. When date format is set to timestamp, the comparison incrementally is based on timestamp. And the set date, the update comparison for incremental data is based on this thing. Basically, it is telling when date format is set as a timestamp. We do not have a timestamp. Our date format is, it is a date, right? If you go back this update date, sorry. It is the timestamp only, right? See how it is taking in the backend. Update date, it is maintenance timestamp and in the timestamp, right? It is given current under the first timestamp. And what they're telling, it is applicable for us, not this below one. When date format is set as a date, this one, when date format set as a timestamp, the update comparison for incremental input is based on timestamp. Basically, it is telling it will consider your, even fraction of second also. If it is a simple date, right, it will take only particular date to date. Like, it will bring for your only to date data. But if you're using a timestamp along with the date, it will take the time also like 9 hour 9 minute, 9 hour 10 minutes. These data it will consider. These are the data or the things you can mention here to phase the next. Try this one, right? This is not only the data, right? You have to place a query here, right? Simple. It is little give the data from the users, but what data we required actually, right? You have to think of the query. There will be where clause will be here, right? Where clause you have to give select first name. Select ID first name, last name, email status and department. From users where update date equal to right. Update date -3, something like you have to give, then only it will give you the previous 3 hour of data, right? Because how it will know the incremental leak on, you are specify all the things, but you are not telling as an incremental data from previous 12 hour or 24 hours for how many hour it should bring the data, right? We have made a update column, but this is we are telling this update data columns should be incremental, but we are not telling from how many past hour it should bring the data. You have to specify that in the query, right? And you can search into Google, or you have to come up with the query how we can bring the data from the previous 3 years back. Only 3 hours back, not more than that. Once this data is, it is prepared, come back to here. Go to the job control panel, right? And in the incremental record again, you have to add a new job. Give a trigger name like test sorry. Can it be a test training import? I'm missing, right? Submit. Oh, sorry. This shouldn't be a space, or you can give a create a job. Once this job is ready, right? Like that you are doing it. You have to, give the connection name here and pass it here. Prepare the connection and put that file here. Once you prepare this thing, this user XML, you have to place it again under your connection, right? The data it is facing or it is putting from connection only. We discussed about the connector yesterday, right? How this connection is playing a bigger story. Let's come back to the connection. Open your connection. What we have prepared. Go back here and same thing. It plays that file with the user input XML clear new file. Once you put it here, come back to here and run that job here. And it'll, do the things. This is about the incremental return. Let me give you some of the brief idea, right? For today regarding your provisioning part, how this provisioning is happening. Then we'll, start on the business about provisioning. We saw 3 things here. Like here our Saviynt was here. Right? We bring back the data from H&M source through a full import. We created some of the user in, like in our Saviynt database. Saviynt is good to now to handle the user or to manage the lifecycle management of the user. Let's say we have 2 users in Saviynt. One is, Shruti, another is Tejasini. These 2 users are there. Why they're here? Because they interviewed to the company, they got selected, and after that HR put their information in their own database. From here, Saviynt is taking care. Saviynt bring back those information to Saviynt. Through user import, we saw it right now, right? Once this user information are here. Now, from here, Saviynt will manage the user. Managing in the sense in which target system or account these 2 employees should get access, right? And timesheet as a part of their daily routine, because it is a by default. It is their birthright access right. They should get it automatically without any request, because otherwise how they will look at the email and fill the timesheet, right? In the same way, that means what I'm telling. These two employee accounts would get created here. Once their account got created here, right? They can do this stuff. Same way, we try to create the account of Shruti and Tejasini in a database. Any database will resemble this Outlook application as a database and will create their account here. This database application, how we are going to create their account, right? Again, the same procedure. If you want to create an account in any of the application in the target application, first you should let Saviynt know about this application, right? This is a third-party application. This is a Saviynt and it doesn't know anything about it. Again, who will play the role here in between your connector? The connector will play a role here and they will create the your account data in database. For that, right, the flow is level different here. How it was happening? Like another target system or application, your HMS was sending your data to Saviynt. But now Saviynt will send the data to the target application, right? Import user, import complete from database. User import full job. If you see in the bracket, the job name user, here it was user import full job. Once you got the data here, right, it was creating here, but now Saviynt is trying to create the user information in the target database as an account. Remember one thumb rule. If Saviynt is receiving any information, it will receive information through different jobs. Right? We saw here, I showed you, right? We have here your user import job, your incremental, your system. You put a lot of jobs other for input. But when Saviynt will try to send the information to the target system, there is only one and only job. That job's name is always it is BUS retry. Remember the name, the J name is BUS retry. This BUS retry will help to create the user account in any of the target system, irrespective of the application, whether it is your database or your Active Directory or your SAP system or your, service. Now it doesn't matter any database it can be. It will create your information here throughout the help of a BUS retry. This BUS retry again, what it will ask, it will face the information right from this connection. Actually, it is not ideally going to the connection, how it is happening. Let's say you have an application, you try to integrate it, right? Once this application database, it is integrated through this connector. All this connector information, you wrote it here, right? Like you gave a target database what information you required to connect to the Saviynt. You record first day username, right? A password as a service account, right, to connect to this. And most importantly, the URL of this database. You record that URL of the database, what driver it is using, JDBC URL, right? All this information you required. Along with the most important thing, what you record, right? What information you are sending here. As a user, I'm sending user first name, last name, email, ID. Status, all this attribute from Saviynt to here I'm sending. This attribute also you need to pass. Once you pass this information right to here, right? Before sending it back here, what it happened in the middle position? It tried to create a task for you. What I mean, if I'm sending all this information right to here, directly to this, it won't come here. I told it is provisioned by your doublet through this connector. Once you prepare all this information, you send this information. This doublet again sitting here. It is still hold on. You cannot pass one by one information here. You have to make a gathering of your information like username, password, JDB. See all this information you have to bundle up and create a task for me. That is called a task. Once you create a task for me, I will pick this task. Let's say this task number is 1, 2, 3. I'll pick this task and I'll send it to here. And if it got successfully created here, I'll send back the response to you. To the Saviynt, and I'll tell boss Saviynt, this user is created here. You should mark the task as completed. Until that, the task will be in pending state. This is how the provisioning flow is coming. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.